Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome everybody to it's gonna be an alternative killer review, but it's not at the same time. Um this person T0 Lewis T0 Toth Lewis, however you want to pronounce it. It's called him the Big TT. Has submitted the vampire as his creation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it as it is displayed on screen. And I'm going to go back through and put just my own unique spin on it. So you'll have two concepts. The way it's implemented now, he wants them it to be a dark pictures anthology type chapter, and the way I want to portray it is an alternative killer for Michael Myers. Is how I want to spin it. So I did a little bit tweaking and possibly pointed the creator to hopefully, think about a new concept or somebody else that comes through and says, hey, that sounds cool, to kind of pick up the ropes. But just to throw the idea out there, basically for you guys. But let's jump into this. I have never seen House of Ashes from the Dark Pictures anthology, but he says he recently played it and he loved the game. What struck him even more is how fascinating the monster looked in it and how one would fit the entity's realm as a killing machine. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the general idea of a killer and survivor. I don't think I read anything about a survivor. If I did, I might have got him confused. Probably Salim, the dude, was a vampire slayer for a possible new chapter from the Dark Pictures anthology. Here's the vampire. General overlook. The way it's shaped and things like that, you'd think, Demogorgon or Demogorgon or something like that in alternative 4, which I mean could be. Um, it's a fearless, vicious monster from the depths of Earth itself. The vampire preys on its victims from the shadows and is driven by inflicting fear and terror. Its base speed is 46 milliseconds, tear radius is 32 meters. Basic attack is Deadly Claws. Lethal and nearly indestructible in nature, the vampire's deadly claws at the end of its fingers, striking its victim with a brutal maul. Swipe attack. Secondary power, echolocation. Living underground for several millennia, the vampire has grown an acute sense of hearing and adapted to the darkness below. Press the secondary ability button to enter echolocation mode, which slows down your movement speed by 90% and increases your FOV by 15 degrees. Survivors who are running will trigger killer instinct until they slow down to walking or you exit echolocation. So it's good for seeing survivors, through the map. This is very good beginning game. Well, let's just talk about the pros and cons. The pros are it's good for finding somebody at the beginning of a match and things like that, so you don't have to use like Nemesis's perk and things like that. It's good for cutting off people who are trying to go for a hook or something like that. You can see the progress they are getting towards the hook. Enable you to efficiently corral survivors or even get more downs or even tunnel, which is what I think this killer might be loosely around, is tunneling, because you can see locations of moving survivors, not ones on gens. The negatives is if everybody's working on a generator, you've now lost your primary power. And after the generators are done, they have like bitter murmur and things like that, which I guess this kind of saves that. That picks up survivors for the last couple of seconds. Or if you hook somebody, I guess it sort of takes over barbecue and chili for anything that's moving. But as long as survivors are actually, sticking generators and things like that, you generally will have no idea where they are unless you pick them up before they start moving. Like at the beginning of the match, it's a great. Afterwards, if survivors don't move and keep working on gens, you're basically just gen patrolling. The vampire is very good at finding this particular person and then tracking them. And as the person continues to run and move and things like that, very good at tunneling, getting in there, and getting that chase done as quick and as efficient as possible. And if you do leave, it has that kind of one click radar scan button to where you can relocate where your target is and then immediately go back into pursuit, like Doctor or anything else, or Scratch Me or Myers, but tweaked a little bit. Now, and pardon any background noise that you hear. There's apparently a heated conversation going on the phone or something. I don't know if you hear it. I apologize. Perk 1, Raging Immortality. Your physiology makes you near indestructible, and your rage makes you a beatable opponent. You destroy drop pallets 11% faster by base. Getting stunned with a pallet will give you a totem, up to a totem of 3 tokens. With each token, you destroy drop pallets 3% faster, up to a 20% speed. Getting stunned with a pallet will give you 1 token up 3 tokens. With each token, you drop pallets fast. Yeah. Okay. That's right. 3% faster, up to a maximum speed of 20% speed. So that's 3 tokens at 3% 9 plus the original 11, which makes 20% speed. Gotcha. But once you gain maximum tokens, any other pallet stuns will result in the pallet being instantly broken on stun. You still suffer from the stun cooldown, and getting blinded by a flashlight, flashbang, blast mine, or basically blinded in general, consumes all tokens, which takes you back to a 11%. Perk 2, Terror of the Night. Your lethal attacks leave your victims panicked and hopeless, and their fear drives you crazy for their blood. A successful basic attack freezes your bloodlust here for 8 seconds and inflicts blindness, the ability to read auras, and the oblivious status effect, the ability to sense the killer's terror radius on the survivor until they get downed or escape the chase. This effect persists for 8 seconds after breaking chase or being down. Part 3, Shadow Stalker. You go increasingly more predatory, Jesus, as your victims get close to escaping. With each generator repaired, your terror radius is reduced by 5 meters. When the exit gates are powered, your terror radius is reset and you gain a 5% haste status effect. He also ends it with, let me know what you guys think. What would you change and how? He would love to see the Dark Pictures anthology calibration between the 2 game studios. House of Ashes presented perfect killing machines, and he'd love to see them in the Entities realm and wreak havoc. No, by base, this is an overall good idea. But the reason I want to make it an alternative killer is because, well, behavior when they have to get these contracts and things like that. For one, that means the character that this person made means it's going to be paid only. You're not going to ever be able to unlock this character through blood points or anything like that. Or iridescent shards. Or anyway like that. Since it's contracted killer, it's going to be paid. And because it's paid, this killer is going to need its own map and its own set of things. Maybe, maybe not, depending on contractual wise, a survivor to go along with everything. It's going to be its own thing, its own shebang. So this killer is going to have a lot of bread and butter behind it. When me introducing alternative killers, which I'm going to explain how, it could be a Michael Myers type substitute. And then you wouldn't have to worry about that. You would just have to change the name and things like that just to make it a general vampire. And I want to scroll down and show what I'm talking about. So what's this going to contain is it's going to contain my review of the actual perks, and it's also going to contain my specific twist that you can actually throw upon this. One guy commented, imagine putting all 5 survivors of House of Ashes and we're getting 15 new survivor perks. Oh, he means all 5 of them as selectable characters and given new perks. That contract would unfortunately be way too big, way too much content, and the cost of the actual pack itself would go up a lot, and they would have to polish and remake every single character, the specs. If we're talking, it'd take a long time for them to release a chapter like that with 5 survivors, and they would probably have to do 2 killers with the 5 survivors to balance that out. That would be a heck of a contract. But I mean, it could be possibly doable. I don't know why you would want 5 new survivors, though, when there's 4 on a team, though. But, you know. If we ever go into an alternative survivors type deal, maybe that might be a good idea. Who knows? Now, as I preface everything, so if anybody's here is like, well, this guy's a dick, I don't know why anything's just like, I always preface this. Same with the videos. Same with everything. Keep in mind that everything I say is not to offend anybody and is only my personal suggestion. If you aren't open to constructive criticism, please do not read any further. As with the videos, if you don't like constructive criticism and you don't like people harping about other people's work and things like that, please do not watch the video. Said I am a very lowly channel, not anything big, and it's kind of unfair to me looking at my things and saying, oh, well, all this guy's doing is complaining or something like that, or having a negative mindset, and then leaving a dislike because you didn't like a particular thing I said. When I keep preferences, if you don't like constructive criticism or if you're negatively affected about somebody talking about something that you like, please just turn away now. And anybody that's left, let's continue on. As I said, I've never seen DPA, which is, I'd have to look at it again, Dark Pictures Anthology. The entire thing, or House of Ashes. And my suggestions would be the pull the character or the killer away from that concept instead of using their particular vampire and all of that, making it its own entity. and expanding it into a regular killer. Here's a suggestion: an alternative but unique version of Michael Myers. This is sort of the start to that. Since vampires are known through lore to drink blood, I'd have the killer be a vampire lore type of setup that carries around like a chalice that fills with the blood charges off of successful hits. So instead of it being a beast, it start out as a more human killer that walks around, a vampire lord, that looks vampire and all of that, what do they call them? Apexes? I think an apex vampire, just strong, a progenitor, maybe. Whatever the top vampire is, they walk around and like those. Some are human forms, some aren't. Some are like monstrous forms. And he would just be walking around with like a chalice and his claws out, and he could like hit somebody with a chalice or swipe them. And then the blood, he kind of like swirls some blood in his chalice afterwards. Maybe takes a sip out of it after hitting somebody, and that would be his animation. Just something quirky. Now, using the charge that he gets, he can activate echolocation. So instead of it being able to be activated all the time and held, I don't think there's even a cooldown for echolocation. No, I think there was one. No. There is no cooldown for echolocation. So you can use it for as long as you want. So instead of just letting somebody sit in echolocation for as long as they want, make it the where they have to injure survivor. After injuring the survivor, they get X amount of blood, and then the blood is used as in, I don't want to say most vampire games. Some vampire games, they trade blood for power. And then you need more blood to activate higher levels of powers. So that would just be a way to where it doesn't limit you on a cooldown of how long you can use echolocation, unless, you run out of blood. Then later on, even the possibility to transform into the beast that you're talking about, you can turn into the beast that you originally had and still include him in that previous concept. So now it's not particularly taking from their lore. It's just a regular vampire lord with a beast transformation. Or, like I also mentioned, can transform into a blood state. Similar to like the Oni's mechanics and things like that, but have a unique set of powers or abilities in that different state. Like Michael Myers' tier system, but tier 1, you're, starved vampire. Tier 2, you're, I don't know, thirsty vampire or something like that. And tier 3, you're satiated vampire. I don't know, just 3 different stages. Could even go to 5 stages if you want to expand it like that. But 3 stages seems to be fine if you're going for an alternative Michael Myers type thing. Beast state or blood state would be temporary. Unless, you want beast state for the rest of the match. I mean, it could be a permanent thing, but I would make it temporary to keep up with Michael Myers type things and only last for a specific amount of time. Same with blood state. Now, the difference between it being Michael Myers and the actual vampire is Michael Myers, tier 1, he's Baby Myers, unless you're running specific add-ons. Tier 2, he's like teenage Myers. Tier 3, he's adult Myers. Or above Myers. Then he goes down to tier 2 and goes back up to tier 3 and gets powerful, and tiers back and forth. The difference that it'll be from that is the more blood the vampire has, the more power they'll have access to. Also, because it's a tiered system and you're using X amount of blood for X amount of power, anybody who wants to play like the Star Vampire or the Tier 1 Michael Myers can also play that way with unique abilities and perks and things for that specific tier. So this also takes the shift off behavior to secure another contract and allows your killer to be implemented into the game uniquely as an alternative killer for Michael Myers. And if we can push alternative killers, we can easily get, like I said, offering tokens and things like that available that you can purchase from the store or something like that, or they come with the character and then be like, boom, somebody burns the offering. It's like a hidden offering, and boom, you spawn in as your character. As opposed to having to go through and implement everything. This is like if your killer is widely popular and people want to play it all the time, they can always incorporate it into an individual killer later on. But right now, you're just trying to get your foot in the door to get that far and see how things go. Now, let me take a drink first, and then we're getting to the nitty gritty. Now, I started to go over powers. Echolocation. When you enter echolocation, you slow down 90% move speed. And let me do the math on that. 90% of 4.6. So you would have 0.52? No, 0.42. No. I've lost my mind. I've actually lost my mind. 0.46. Because if the numbers are the same, is what's getting me. You would have 0.4. I'm losing it. 0.52. You would have 0.52 movement speed. That's not correct either. Why am I trying to make it 0.64? Why am I being dyslexic? It's from 0.14 to 0.6. All you have to do is round it up to 6. From 0.14 to 6. 0.46. You would have 0.46 movement speed while using echolocation. So you would move 0.46 meters a second. Holy. Holy. Movement speed using echolocation. However, your FOB would be increased, so you would basically be standing still. However, any survivors that are running, it will trigger a killer instinct until they slow down to a walk or you exit echolocation. Now, I just said I would make slowdown speed equivalent to stock speed as a scratch mirrors Myers. Possibly even a little bit faster, because scratch mirror Myers, you can keep clicking the button and keep seeing them and keep seeing them and keep seeing them. Where echolocation goes off killer instincts, which is like a pulsating heart that you see through walls. So it's a little bit of a nerf from Scratch Mirrors. So I would make it a little bit faster than Scratch Mirrors stalking speed. um, but as I also say afterwards, it would have to be fine tuned in the public test beta. That's not something you can tune in words and then throw that out. It's going to have to be put in with players, and they're going to have to play with the concept to see, if it's too bad, too slow, needs to be faster, etc., etc. But I think it is a brilliant perk, and it's balanced, very balanced. It was that, and I personally think making the gauge fill up on hits instead of stocks is going to make playing the vampire similar to Michael Myers, however unique. So Michael Myers gets his power off of stalking. You have to slow down the stalk speed to get power from Myers. While the vampire, you'll be building your power while you're in chase. So if you like Michael Myers' tiered system and things like that, but you hate slowing down and happen to stalk while survivors are getting away, the vampire would be more your speed, where you can run, slap survivors, and build your power as you're slapping them. That's the alternative to Michael Myers coming into effect. Then you add in other abilities on top of that to kind of put icing on the cake and to entice other players who like playing Michael Myers to try something new. On Raging Immortality, that's the perk that makes you drop pallets faster, and getting stun eventually allows you to break the pallets instantly on stun, but you suffer the same stun effect. The problem that I had with that was, well, I didn't say had, the problem that I found within that is Brutal Strength by base has a 20% pallet, breakable wall, and gen damage speed buff. Well, this perk starts out at a 11% speed buff on pallets and then builds up to 20% speed and an auto pallet break, however, you still get stunned. Raging Immortality is a nerfed version of Brutal Strength, but it has a higher end result, being the pallets break easier. However, the problem with that is Brutal Strength takes only 2.6 seconds to destroy a pallet, while being stunned by a pallet is only 2 seconds. So, getting pallet stun, losing that little bit of vision that you have on the survivors while you're in the stun animation, and not being able to get that speed on breakable walls, generators, and everything else isn't worth the trade-off of only zero point 0.6 seconds of benefit. I'd also change the how the tokens get consumed. As it sits now, the tokens get knocked off of this individual perk when the vampire is blinded. However, this is not a state that can happen in every game. If a survivor doesn't bring with them a flashlight, or if any of the chests or anything like that don't have flashlights in them, it becomes an impossible to get rid of token type system. So as I would change the trigger, and I would make it to something where you don't have to rely on a survivor bringing a flashlight or opening a chest or something like that, then getting lucky to reset it. Even though it's not that strong as a perk from base, I don't even know why you would necessarily make it to where you can consume the tokens on them. You might just want to remove that line completely, because you're not getting much benefit that you're not going to get from Brutal Strength. The only difference is while you're being stunned, if you get stunned, which means you voluntarily have to walk into a pallet. to break the pallet. So the value of you forcefully getting stunned and losing that little bit of vision as you're getting stunned, the benefits being you're taking the pallet to the face, or the benefits being the pallet's broken. So you take pallet to face, but pallet breaks. The cause and effect. I don't think the totem being consumed actually needs to be added to this. If you do want it to be something that can be nerfed, I would either buff up the effect, but also change the script and lining, because you don't want it to interfere with Brutal Strength, as Brutal Strength is a perk that's been around for a long time. You would want to rewrite it to make it unique in its own way. It can incorporate pallets, but I would make it incorporate something else and also make it valuable to a player. Now, if you ran this perk with Brutal Strength, you can have up to a 40% pallet cleansing speed, but you wouldn't want to take pallets to the face anymore when you have max things, because then you're losing speed. Well, I didn't necessarily say you're losing speed. You're losing speed overall between the stun and pallet break, so that gap's going to decrease, but it probably won't be but like a second. But still, you know what I mean. Terror of the Night. A successful basic attack freezes your blood tier state for 8 seconds, causes blindness and oblivious effect till they get downed or escape the chase. As said, using this perk, you're basically nullifying and changing core mechanics of the actual game, aka the hit that the survivor, or the speed that survivor gets after being hit, you're nullifying with an excess of speed. Especially if you wait till you get blood tier 3 and then you slap the survivor, they get a couple of steps away and you're immediately on them again, slapping them again. The blood tier or the bloodlust effect won't go away. Now, if you change this to incorporate it with the transformation effect, every time you hit, you freeze your transformation effect for 8 seconds or something like that, or some sort of incorporation in the future. Possibly, if it still ain't too outbalanced, but as it sits now, you are keeping the blood tier effect, which is supposed to go away after you get a hit. You're also inflicting blindness, which is aura reading, and then the oblivious status effect, you won't hear the killer's tear radius. That doesn't go away until you escape the chase. But how can you escape the chase if you don't know that you're still in the chase? You know what I'm saying? Because it also persists. I lost it. 8 seconds after breaking the chase or being down. So you have to get out of the chase and be out of everything for 8 seconds. Now within that 8 seconds, the vampire can just use his echolocation to find you again and just reinitiate the chase. So that said, the echolocation and the vampire's mechanics make it a very good tunnel class killer. Like once you get spotted by this killer, it's basically gonna mean an instant down for you. How everything's coming together. Well, not an instant down, but it's gonna basically mean a down for you. It's just a matter of when, and that'll be individual survivor skill. The killer is hard countered by survivors not running until they need to, so sprint burst would be a very good counter for it, to try to get that extra speed away from the killer, etc., etc. So you're going to have survivors that aren't necessarily eager to run, so they'll be walking everywhere. However, at the end of that, they'll have sprint burst and other perks like that, and lithe. or balance landing any type of speed part, or dead hard to get extra distance and value to get away from you. So you do have a slowing effect passively to any survivor that's bold enough to run is probably going to get picked off. However, if survivors do take their time, your abilities become harder to use. Which is why I prefer going over the tier system alongside this, where it won't matter if people are going fast or not, you'll be able to do whatever you need to get done. Alrighty then. Computer's gone rampant. Bad joke, I know. I lost my complete train of thought, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Shadow Stalker, you grow increasingly more predatory as your victims get closer to escaping. With each generator repaired, your tear radius is reduced by 5 meters. When the exit gates are powered, your tear radius is reset and you gain a 5% haste status effect. So my counterclaim to this, well, let's talk about the perk. Tear radius, which I'm just gonna probably work from the backwards to up in my statements. Tear radius for a regular killer is 32 meters. Every generator that gets replaced, which would be the first 4, would decrease your tear radius. So you would get a 20 meter decrease in tear radius. 20 meters off 32 is a 12 meter tear radius. Very small. If you make it a sort of slower killer, getting 20 meters off that makes your tear radius only 4 meters, depending on the speed that you want to go and the balancing and everything else. As that'll have to be determined in the public test beta. Now, no one escapes death. A perk we're all familiar with provides a 4% haste status effect after the exit gates are powered. And you also get to one hit down survivors. They get the exposed status effect. However, the downside is it's a hex totem and can be neutralized before it even tries to spawn or after it spawns. Furtive chase decreases your tear radius while you're in a chase, and there's by a chase by 4 meters per token. The negative of that is it's a totem system. Why do I say totem? Token, because I put totem system. The token system is the negative with it. You have to do something in order to get tokens to actually decrease the radius. Then you have monitor and abuse, reduces your tear radius by, well, out of chase by 16 meters. And increases your FOV by 10%. However, your base tear radius is increased by 8 meters. Every perk that I mentioned there, and there's probably more, are similar to Shadow Stalker, but they all have a good and bad system associated with them for balancing. And a lot of these perks encompasses or is even a buff version of Shadow Stalker in the long run. And as I say, as a joke for everybody else, every killer usually has one meh perk that you look at and you're like, eh. You know, I'll use it as starting out, but afterwards I'm going to put a new power on. So that could just be its meh perk. Then I write, the basic tear radius is determined by survivor or killer move speed. 32 meters is usually the base for 4.6, which is standard move speed. A little bit slower gets 24 meters, things like that. It's from a Google search, as you can see by the sick and then the italics. It's from Google search. I typed it in, that's what it is. So I at least hope you come up with new ideas. And I reminded them that they were just my suggestions. So going back to this killer, regularly he just wants the vampire in bestial form that can echolocate survivors. That's the killer's base power. It's echolocation. The buffing perks that comes with the killer when you're first starting out is palette breaks, being able to affect blindness and oblivious, and then shadow stalker for the 5% haste status effect at the end of the or at the end of the trial. Now this character is balanced well with itself. Like all of these perks, if somebody was to run these three perks together on this particular killer, they run very fairly. However, when you start stacking other perks from different killers alongside of it, it kind of becomes a meh type of thing. Like the perks aren't like super OP, but they're also not, you know, low tiered and useless. So it has a very incredibly good balance with it. So this character could be implemented. I mean, more things are gonna have to be added. Like the echolocations, definitely gonna have to be changed a little bit, and you're gonna have to adjust during the public test beta. Um, I personally recommend going back in and rewriting all of the perks to try to make your killer stronger. Because as of now, the only thing that you have that's I'll put this. The only pulling point that you have on your killer is the ability to tunnel survivors quickly. So after you eventually locate a survivor, you can down them quickly. But the problem comes in locating survivors. Once survivors figure out who your killer is, then they know only thing they need to do is just kind of walk around and kind of play it stealthily to not have to worry about it. Now, when you're activating your echolocation, I know that you personally will probably want the echolocation to be quiet, but game mechanics wise and things like that, there's gonna have to be some sort of either notification or status effect that pops up on an effective survivor. Because that's the core mechanics of Dead by Daylight. So there's either going to be a sound or a scream of some sort from the actual vampire letting all survivors know that they're scanning, or if they do like to go for a silent style like stalking type scan, it's either going to have to be a stalking gauge that fills up like Ghostface, or it's going to have to send some sort of status effect to a survivor stealthily, and if they notice it, they'll know that, hey, I need to stop moving, and then slowly creep away. And kids are up. Nice. When it comes to perk wise, I mean, I'm thinking about perks that can be ran. I mean, like NOAD with a bunch of running survivors at the end of a game with echolocation is going to be absolutely disgusting. But if they're stealthy about getting to the exit gates and things like that and finding totems, everything will be fine. Um, I'm losing my train of thought. I imagine using it with well, I guess I don't know if I would stack it with like barbecue and chili or anything like that. I'd definitely put it with like maybe Iron Maiden, maybe. If people are more tuned in to like jumping lockers and things like that when you get near, or anything to, what would you run? What would the build be for this? Because I'm thinking of like Michael Myers style builds too that would work here, but none really comes to mind as like that would benefit from the echolocation. I know there's a lot of perks, but I'm just hmm. I guess any perk that reduces tear radius might be good, but I feel like you can do better. Oh, if anybody watches this, give me a perk list that can run well with this. But yeah, if you find the correct perks to run with this to basically track and locate survivors quickly, you can literally smack, pow, by the time you recover. If you let yourself get to tier 3 bloodlust, quickly catch up to the survivor and down them again. Now, it does not state anywhere here that it never states anywhere here that the bloodlust tier goes away. It just says it freezes your bloodlust tier for 8 seconds. So after you hit a survivor, I assume if you hit them again within 8 seconds, which should happen with tier 3 bloodlust, even with tier 1 bloodlust, unless they get the perfect escape from you, you should still be able to get around and hit them again within 8 seconds. It could chain and chain and then chain, and you just have this ridiculous stalker that you can chain. And if there's multiple survivors, boom bam, boom bam, boom bam, boom bam, and just change echo vision, chain echo vision, chain echo vision, and get some really disgusting downs. I'm not saying you're gonna get a 4 piece at once unless they're all running together and playing stupid, but you could probably get a good 2 mixed with the right perks and all of that and add-ons, which is probably going to increase this effect. Well, not this effect, but the other effects of echolocation and things like that, possibly even base speed of the actual vampire. So, yeah, this killer can go a whole bunch of different ways and can stay the same and be fun with a little bit more content added to it. You know, a little buffing, make echolocation do something else as well. Or you could go the alternative killer method, like I said, with like a vampire lord style setup and have a tiered Michael Myers style system. Thinking about how I'm gonna label this, because I want to say alternative killer for Michael Myers, but I guess I'll say anthology chapter and then slash alternative killer or hmm. I don't know. Thank you for your time. Kids are up. I'm gonna end the video here. I had a little bit more to say, but unfortunately out of time. Thank you. Supplement your lifestyle. Have a good one. Bye bye.